They will call you cold, calculating, dangerous, but they will only say this behind your back. To your face they will say nothing at all. This is the silence that follows true power, a power that begins not by shouting but by listening to the one enemy you have been trained your entire life to ignore: yourself. Observe the world around you. It is a theater of noise, a relentless storm of action and reaction. This is where the common man lives, and it is where he is defeated before he ever begins to fight. His idea of power is a crude and brittle thing, forged in the fires of ego and emotion. He believes strength is measured in the volume of his voice, the force of his arguments, the swiftness of his retort. He rushes into every confrontation, armed with nothing but raw, undisciplined feeling, believing that passion is a substitute for strategy. He is the debater who must have the last word, savoring the hollow victory of silencing his opponent while losing their respect forever. He is the executive who asserts authority through intimidation, confusing fear with loyalty, and wondering why his commands are met with sabotage the moment he turns his back. He is the social climber who trades in gossip and public takedowns, building a throne of sand that will be washed away by the next tide of popular opinion. This is the conventional path. It is a frantic, exhausting dance performed on a stage for an audience that does not care. The man who walks this path is not a commander. He is a puppet. His strings are pulled by the slightest provocation. An insult from a rival sends him into a rage. A word of praise from a superior fills him with a desperate, fleeting pride. His emotional state is a territory occupied and controlled by outside forces. He is predictable. And to the strategist, that which is predictable is already broken. He believes he is fighting a war against others, but he is merely a combatant in a civil war within himself, a war between his impulses and his potential. His anger is a weapon he clumsily turns upon himself, clouding his judgment and exposing his weaknesses. His pride is a wall he builds to hide his insecurities, a wall that blinds him to the terrain around him. His impatience is a poison that convinces him to attack when he should be observing, to speak when he should be silent. This desperate need to act, to react, to prove oneself is the very definition of weakness. It is the thrashing of a man drowning who pushes away the lifeline in his panic. The world sees his frantic motion and may mistake it for strength, but the strategist sees the truth. He sees a man who has surrendered control of his most valuable asset, his own mind. He has given the keys to his inner citadel to anyone who knows which buttons to press. This is not power. It is the most profound form of slavery. This is the way of the pawn, destined to be sacrificed in a game it does not understand. But there is another path, a path that is quiet, deliberate, and to the outside world almost invisible. It is a path considered dangerous not because of the harm it brings to others, but because of the merciless way it forces you to annihilate your own weakness. This is the path of the strategist. This is the way of Sun Tzu. The master strategist operates from a principle that is an enigma to the conventional mind. Sun Tzu wrote, "The victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory." The common man hears this and thinks of elaborate preparations on an external battlefield. He thinks of spies and logistics and ambushes. He is still looking outward. The true student of strategy understands. The victory is not won in the boardroom or in the argument or on the field of battle. The victory is won first and always in the silent arena of the mind. The war you must win is against the impulsive, reactive, emotional creature that lives within you. The dangerous level of thinking this path requires is not the craft of deceiving others, but the brutal, unflinching honesty of dissecting yourself. It is to take the sharpest blade of analysis and turn it inward, to map your own emotional triggers, your vanities, your fears, and your hidden insecurities with the cold precision of a general mapping an enemy's territory. This is the first and most terrifying secret. You are your own primary enemy. Your impulsiveness is their greatest ally. Your ego is the spy that gives them your plans. Your uncontrolled anger is the saboteur that burns your own supplies before the battle even begins. To embark on this path is to declare war on this internal traitor. The strategist does not seek to silence the loud opponent. He seeks to silence the screaming impulse within himself. He does not seek to control the narrative in the room. He seeks to control the storm of thoughts that cloud his own judgment. While the amateur is busy fighting the world, the master is busy conquering himself. He understands that a mind that has achieved true stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting the world as it is, not as his emotions paint it. This clarity is the ultimate weapon. It allows him to see the opponent's moves before they are made, to understand their unspoken fears, to recognize the subtle currents of power that the noisy and distracted can never perceive. This is why this thinking is deemed dangerous. It is a threat to the comfortable illusion that your problems are caused by others. It dissolves the ego that feeds on drama and conflict. It replaces the frantic desire for external validation with a quiet, unshakable core of internal control. It is a process of tearing down the weak man you are to build the strategist you must become. This power is not built on what you do, but on what you refuse to do. It is forged in the silence, in the pause between the provocation and the response. For the undisciplined mind is the most treacherous enemy, one that masquerades as yourself. The strategy we will unveil will not give you power over others. It will give you power over the only adversary that has ever mattered. Comment, "I am my own battleground," to declare war on your weaknesses, and subscribe to learn the art of self-conquest. You have declared war. You have named the adversary, not as a rival or a competitor, but as the ghost within your own machine, the chaotic, reactive self. But a declaration is not a plan of attack. To win this war, you must move beyond intention and into the realm of method. You must learn the foundational principles of this invisible conflict, the ancient rules that govern the art of self-conquest. This is where the true study begins, not with memorizing clever tactics to use on others, but by forging the very weapons you will use upon yourself. The first and most critical of these is the principle of knowledge. Sun Tzu stated it with perfect clarity. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. But the student of the inner world reads this with a crucial amendment. The enemy is yourself. The dictum therefore becomes a singular, focused command. Know thyself. This is not the gentle self-discovery of popular psychology. This is the ruthless intelligence gathering of a general preparing for the most critical campaign of his life. Your mind is the terrain, and you must map every inch of it. The enemy you hunt is not a unified entity. It is a guerrilla insurgency of impulses, an army of ghosts from your past. Your mission is to expose them, to drag them from the shadows into the harsh, unforgiving light of your awareness. Begin the interrogation. What praise do you desperately crave? This reveals the location of your vanity, the weak point in your fortress where any flatterer can gain entry. What criticism can ruin your day, sending you into a spiral of anger or despair? This is a map to your deepest insecurities, the buried munitions that an opponent can detonate with a single, well-chosen word. What are your patterns? When you are tired or stressed or hungry, to which emotional state do you default? Anger, self-pity, arrogance? These are the enemy's well-worn infiltration routes. This process of radical self-observation is considered dangerous for a reason. It is dangerous to the comfortable, carefully constructed narrative you have about who you are. It forces you to admit that you are not the calm, rational master of your fate you pretend to be. It reveals you as a collection of predictable, mechanical reactions. This knowledge is painful. It will feel like an act of profound self-betrayal, but in the words of the master, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Every weakness you identify is an opportunity to neutralize a threat. Once you know that a particular insult stings because it targets your fear of being seen as incompetent, the insult itself loses its venom. You no longer react to the words. You observe the mechanism within you that the words were designed to activate. The provocation becomes data. The emotional attack becomes a lesson in your own architecture. You see the puppet strings, and in seeing them, you sever them. You will never fear the result of 100 battles because the enemy will no longer have any secret weapons to use against you. You will have found them all first. Once this knowledge is gathered, you can begin to practice the second great principle, the art of formlessness. Sun Tzu taught, the ultimate in military deployment is to have no discernible shape. When your shape is known, You can be attacked. When your strategy is obvious, it can be countered. This applies directly to the landscape of the self. The reactive person has a very clear, very predictable form. If you push them with criticism, they lash out with anger. If you pull them with praise, they soften with compliance. Their emotional geometry is simple, rigid, and easily broken. They are a stone in a river, their position fixed, battered by every current. The strategist, however, strives to be like water. Water has no single shape. It cannot be grasped. It cannot be broken with a fist. In a cup, it becomes the cup. In a river, it carves the stone. To cultivate internal formlessness is to master the sacred pause, the infinite deliberate space between a stimulus and your response. When provoked, the amateur is consumed by the immediate, burning need to react. This need is his form, it is his cage. The strategist, having already mapped his internal triggers through self-knowledge, feels the initial spark of anger or pride. But he does not become the fire. Instead, he becomes the observer of the fire. He watches it rise within him, notes its intensity, understands its source, and allows it to pass without compelling him to action. He becomes internally formless. To the outside world, this looks like unshakable calm, an unnerving stillness. The opponent, who sent a probe expecting a violent reaction, receives only silence. They are left confused, unnerved, their own strategy thrown into disarray because their target refused to take the expected shape. Let us apply this. Imagine you are in a critical meeting. A rival seeking to undermine you offers a subtle but sharp critique of your work in front of everyone. This is a strategic probe, an attack designed to elicit a specific reaction. The amateur, the man of form, immediately feels the sting of the insult. His insecurity about his competence, a weakness he has never confronted, is triggered. He reacts defensively. His voice sharpens. He becomes emotional. He argues. He has taken the bait perfectly. He has shown everyone in the room that he can be easily unbalanced. He has lost his composure, and therefore he has lost his authority. He has shown his form, and it is the shape of a puppet. Now, consider the strategist. The same critique is delivered. The strategist, through ruthless self-knowledge, has already identified his sensitivity to this exact type of criticism. He has studied it, understood its origins, and disarmed it. So when the words arrive, he feels the familiar spark, but it is no longer a wildfire. It is a notification. He enters the sacred pause. He becomes formless. He does not defend. He does not attack. He may hold a calm, unwavering gaze on his rival for a moment. He might offer a slight, almost imperceptible nod as if considering a valid, if interesting, point of view. He offers no emotional reaction for his rival to gain a foothold on. He does not become angry water or defensive earth. He becomes still air. The attack finds no solid surface to strike. It passes through him. The rival, who expected a struggle, is left punching at smoke. By refusing to react, the strategist has done more than defend himself. He has seized control of the entire dynamic. His silence is more powerful than any argument. It communicates absolute control, unshakable confidence, and a depth that his rival cannot fathom. He has used the principle of formlessness to render his enemy's strategy obsolete, and he did it without uttering a single word. This is the beginning of mastering the invisible war. You have learned to map the treacherous interior terrain and to dissolve your form, becoming as fluid and ungraspable as water. You have transitioned from being a pawn in your own emotional game to being an observer of it. But observation is not the final goal. It is merely the prerequisite for command. Now you must ascend from the battlefield floor, where the chaos of moment-to-moment conflict reigns, to the elevated vantage point of the general. This is the domain of pure strategy, where the war is won not through struggle, but through sight. This is the mastery of the psychological battlefield. The first and most profound transformation on this path is the cultivation of a general's detachment. The common man hears the word detachment and imagines a cold, unfeeling void, a heart of ice. This is a crude misunderstanding. Detachment is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of it. The general on the hill overlooking the battle feels the gravity of every loss, But he is not paralyzed by the grief of any single soldier. His vision is fixed on the entire war, on the sweeping movements of forces and the subtle shifts in momentum. To allow his own emotional state to be dictated by the desperate fight in the valley below would be the ultimate betrayal of his command. He must see the whole board, not just the embattled square he stands upon. This is the internal war you must now wage. It is a campaign against the tyranny of the personal. Your ego is a petty officer that insists every skirmish is the entire war. It screams that every insult is a mortal wound, every setback a catastrophic defeat. It demands immediate emotional retaliation. The general's mind, your strategic self, must depose this tyrant. You must learn to view your own life, your interactions, and your challenges with this same elevated panoramic perspective. When a colleague undermines you, the ego screams, "This is an attack on me." The strategist, from his elevated view, observes, "This is a predictable maneuver from a position of perceived weakness." What does it reveal about their strategy? And how does it alter the terrain? This shift in perspective is the most dangerous skill of all, for it is a danger to your very identity. It teaches you to starve the ego of the drama it craves. It forces you to find your validation not in winning small, meaningless arguments, but in achieving your long-term objectives. You learn that most conflicts are not worth your energy. They are distractions designed by lesser players to pull you down from your vantage point and into the mud with them. The true strategist understands that his most precious resource is not his time or his money, but his clarity. And he protects that clarity with the ferocity of a king protecting his crown. He achieves this by dominating his own emotions, by viewing them as messengers, not as monarchs. Anger signals a boundary has been crossed. Fear signals a potential threat. Pride signals an attachment to outcome. He receives the message, thanks the messenger, and then from the calm of his command post, he decides on the appropriate strategic response, unclouded by the messenger's panic. As you master this internal state of detached command, a remarkable thing begins to happen to your external presence. You begin to manipulate the perceptions of others, not through elaborate lies or theatrical displays, but through the profound and unnerving power of your own stillness. You no longer leak information about your internal state. Your face does not betray your anger. Your words do not betray your anxiety. You become a black box, an enigma. And into this void of information, others will project their own fears, their own assumptions, and their own insecurities. This is where you apply one of Sun Tzu's most subtle and devastating principles. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. The amateur seeks constantly to project strength. He boasts, he interrupts, he displays his knowledge, he makes threats. In doing so, he reveals everything, his capabilities, his intentions, and most importantly, his insecurities. He gives his opponents a perfect and complete map of his mind. The master does the opposite. When he is at his strongest, when he has the most information, the clearest plan, the decisive advantage, he projects an aura of quiet humility. He listens more than he speaks. He asks questions. He allows others to underestimate him. He lets them mistake his silence for uncertainty, his patience for weakness. This is a strategic trap of the highest order. An opponent who believes you are weak becomes careless. They overplay their hand. They reveal their ambitions. They expose their entire strategy because they do not perceive you as a threat worthy of concealment. You, in your calculated weakness, are gathering all the intelligence you need, allowing them to defeat themselves before the real engagement has even begun. Conversely, should you find yourself in a position of true disadvantage, you do not betray it with panic. You project an aura of impenetrable calm, of deliberate purpose. This calculated stillness can often be enough to deter an attack entirely as your opponent hesitates, wondering what hidden strength you must possess to remain so composed in the face of apparent difficulty. You are no longer playing the game, you are shaping the very atmosphere in which the game is played. From this consistent application of internal command and external stillness, your reputation is forged. A reputation is not something you claim. It is something that is given to you by others. It is the echo of your actions, the legend that precedes you. Every time you meet a provocation with tranquil poise, Every time you decline to enter a petty fray, every time you display wisdom where others show raw emotion, you are laying another stone in the foundation of your legacy. This reputation becomes a force multiplier, an invisible form of power that works for you when you are not even in the room. It becomes a shadow that enters a negotiation before you do, subtly influencing the expectations and behaviors of everyone present. People will begin to choose their words more carefully around you. They will hesitate to employ their usual tactics of emotional manipulation or aggressive posturing, not because they fear an explosive outburst from you, but because they sense it would be a profound waste of their energy. They understand, on an intuitive level, that they are dealing with a different kind of player, one who operates by a different set of rules. Your name becomes synonymous with unshakable composure and strategic depth. This reputation acts as a passive deterrent, filtering out trivial challenges and ensuring that only matters of true significance are brought before you. The greatest battles are the ones you never have to fight. Your reputation, born of self-mastery, becomes your silent, ever-present guardian. You have learned to observe the enemy within and to become formless in the face of the storm. You have ascended to the general's vantage point, mastering the psychological terrain. Now, before we reveal the nature of the final, decisive strike that consolidates your victory, ensure that you are subscribed, for the ultimate wisdom is reserved only for those who complete the journey. This final lesson is not an action, but a transcendence. It is the end of the war not because you have crushed your enemies, but because you have made the very concept of an enemy irrelevant. The moment will inevitably arrive. All your preparation, all your self-knowledge, all your cultivation of stillness has been leading to this single point in time. Your adversary, accustomed to a world of predictable reactions, will make a critical error. Believing your composure to be a weakness or your silence a sign of fear, they will overextend themselves. They will lay a perfect and tempting trap, a public provocation so exquisite that the old you, the reactive ghost you have been working to exorcise, will scream from its cage for blood. They will present you with the perfect opportunity to destroy them with a word, to expose their foolishness, to win the argument so decisively that the applause would be deafening. The ego will surge, demanding satisfaction. It will show you the victory, gleaming and glorious. It will tell you that this is what power is for. This is the moment of greatest danger, and this is the moment of the decisive strike. Sun Tzu wrote, "The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim." The amateur reads this and imagines a physical assault, a verbal evisceration. The master understands, the falcon is your will, the swoop is your choice, and the victim is your own ego. The decisive stroke is not an outward action. It is a swift, silent, and final act of internal assassination against your own weakest impulse. In the instant of maximum temptation, when the world expects you to explode, you choose to do nothing. You choose silence, you choose stillness. You let the perfect, crushing retort die on your tongue. You let the opponent's provocation hang in the air, unanswered, unsupported, until it collapses under the weight of its own pathetic malice. This is the strike of the falcon. It is not a clumsy, emotional brawl. It is a clean, precise execution. By refusing to engage, you do not simply avoid the trap. You detonate it on your opponent. You hold up a mirror to their aggression, and all the ugliness they intended for you is reflected back upon them for all to see. They expected a fight, and in receiving none they are left exposed, flailing at an enemy who is not there. They are defeated not by your strength, but by their own momentum. You have allowed their own force to become the instrument of their undoing. This is the highest form of victory. The onlookers in the room will not see a confrontation. They will see a demonstration. They will witness one person lose their composure, and another who proves that his composure cannot be taken from him. It is a lesson in power that is more profound and lasting than any argument won. What follows this moment is the most critical phase, the consolidation of victory and the establishment of a lasting peace. The conventional warrior celebrates. He gloats. He savors the humiliation of his foe. This is the final, foolish act of the ego, a signal to the world that his victory was an emotional necessity, thus revealing that he can be emotionally manipulated. The strategist does not celebrate. He does not need to. The victory was not an emotional event, it was a strategic inevitability. The outcome was decided in his mind long before the moment arrived. Instead of celebrating, he simply observes. He watches the ripples of his calculated inaction spread across the landscape. The immediate aftermath is a new reality that you have single-handedly created. Your opponent is disarmed. Their primary weapon, provocation, has been proven useless against you. They have no other tools. Future challenges from them and from others who witnessed the event are dissuaded before they are even conceived. You have not won a single battle. You have altered the conditions of the entire war. You have taught the world around you how you are to be engaged with. You have established new terms, a new protocol, and this protocol is built upon a silent, unshakable respect for your self-command. The peace that follows is not a fragile truce that relies on the goodwill of others. It is a permanent state, engineered by you and guaranteed by the fortress of your own mind. It is a peace born from the undeniable evidence that conflict with you is a futile endeavor. This brings us to the final philosophical conclusion. The strategic thinking that society deems dangerous was never about learning how to better manipulate the external world. It was always about the radical and uncompromising re-engineering of your internal one. It is dangerous because it leads to a kind of death, the death of the vulnerable, reactive, approval-seeking person you were taught to be. Once you have walked this path, there is no returning. You can no longer unsee the mechanisms of your own mind, just as you can no longer unsee the strings on a puppet. The ultimate power, the true ascendancy of the strategist, is not found in a position or a title. It is not the power to command armies or to dominate conversations. It is the power to shape reality in such a way that conflict becomes obsolete. It is to become the calm center of your own universe, the quiet eye of the hurricane, observing the chaos of the world without being moved by it. This is the throne that no one dares approach, not because they fear your wrath, but because they intuitively understand that their worldly weapons, their anger, their flattery, their ambition, their deceit, are like stones thrown into the infinite void. They simply vanish, having made no impact. This is the supreme and final victory, not to sit on a throne that others fight for, but to become the throne itself, a state of being so sovereign, so complete, that the very idea of a challenge is rendered meaningless.